Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we are coming at you a day early, but we are going to be breaking down the 2025 Valspar Championship. Yes, we are recording this on a Sunday night, so if you're listening to this earlier than you're used to, that is why, is because we're recording it early. No, there's a big reason why. It's because this week is the start of the NCAA tournament, aka March Madness. We're going to have a ton of March Madness content coming your way, and it just much better benefited my schedule to go ahead and do the golf preview here on Sunday night. So that way I didn't miss the episode, but it also didn't cut into all the college basketball content as well. So make sure that you are subscribed to the channel so that way you can get all of that college basketball content as well as the rest of our coverage for the rest of the PGA Tour season. Now, I will say this is actually, I think this is an underrated event. I think this is an underrated golf course. I think that this is actually a really good field here this week. And I think this is going to be kind of a fun one to look ahead to. Now, the one downside of recording this early is that literally the Players' Championship still going on. The playoff between Rory McIlroy and JJ Spawn is not technically finished yet. So we're recording this one a little bit early. We don't have the official data in for the fourth round of the Players. And we also don't have DraftKings pricing yet. So we are going to be rolling with it, kind of blind in terms of pricing. But we're going to talk about the unique characteristics of this course at Copperhead, which I personally really like. Personally, I think that this course reminds me of one that I play all the time here in North Carolina. And also, we're going to take a look at the different stats, different data that we can look at and see if we can find who is going to be having themselves a good week here at the Valspar Championship. All right, now let's go ahead and dive into Copperhead Course at Innisbrook Resort. All right, so the Copperhead Course at Innisbrook Resort is located just outside of Tampa in Florida. But here's the catch. It does not look like your normal Florida golf course. Like, this is not PGA National. This is not Bay Hill. This is not TPC Sawgrass. This looks like a golf course straight out of North Carolina. Like, honestly, I would be so at home playing this golf course because it literally looks like golf courses that I play on a weekly basis here in North Carolina. It just does not have the same vibes as a Florida course. Some of the agronomy is still very much Florida, but it's very much not typical of what you're going to see. And if somebody's comparing this to the other Florida courses, then I just think that's kind of a lazy breakdown because of location. Copperhead Course at Innisbrook Resort does have a little bit of a theme to it with the snakes and also with Valspar being a paint sponsor. You'll see plenty of colorful foliage around this event, and it generally presents really well on TV. On the scorecard, Copperhead Course is a par 71. It is almost 7,400 yards. Y'all, that is really long for a par 71. And let me tell you why. It has 5 par 3s and 4 par 5s. So all of the par 3s are really long. All of them are over 190 yards most days. They can be moved up and back, but for most days, they're over 190 yards. And so with there being 4 par 5s and 5 difficult par 3s, you're going to really have to score on the par 5s. And what makes this course unique is how it will challenge you in a variety of ways. It is literally a difficult golf course from tee to green. It is a very difficult golf course off the tee. The fairways are some of the narrowest you're going to see on the PGA Tour. The rough is grown up pretty thick, not quite US Open level, but it is grown out pretty thick. And if you miss big, there is plenty of trees lining these fairways. There's plenty of water hazards as well. So both the small miss and the big miss get punished here. You're going to want to be playing from the fairway. Now, what that causes is that's going to instantly cause some guys to club down off the tee, right? Just kind of bunt out there a 3-wood or driving iron or something like that, right? But here's why you don't want to do that. With this course being almost 7,400 yards and a par 71, this is a long golf course. And so if you're clubbing down off the tee, you are going to give yourself some long approach shots into greens. And so for that reason, if you're clubbing down on the tee, the course is even going to play longer than it does on the scorecard. So that kind of presents you with 2 options and creates a unique test here at this event. It either becomes a driver accuracy in mid-irons test if you are willing to pull driver from the bag and willing to try to hit these 27-yard wide fairways with hazards all over the place, or you can club down and it can become one of the true club down and long iron tests on the PGA Tour. With this being a long golf course, like most of the long golf courses on the PGA Tour are courses where guys are swinging driver and just wailing away with driver every time because there's not a big penalty for missing the fairway and there's incentive to using that driver to create as short a course as possible. Well, this week is really going to put that to the test. So I really do think that this week you are going to want to look at guys who can play off the tee. Now, with that combination of either it being a super heavy driving accuracy course or a super long iron intensive course, these greens, they're not easy to hit in their own right. They're very small, and the green regulation percentage is significantly below PGA Tour average here at Copperhead Course. So with that being said, this is a week where you're going to have to scramble. When you look at the winners of this event, dating back to a decade ago, talking about Jordan Spieth, Paul Casey, Patrick Reed, Sam Burns, Taylor Moore, Peter Malnati. That's a wide array of golfers, but the one thing they all have in common, they all have short games. They can all play around the green, and they can all get up and down from tricky situations. So with this being a low green and regulation percentage course, you're going to have guys, no matter how skilled you are off the tee on approach, you're going to miss greens this week. And your ability to get up and down and save par when others would be making bogey or worse is going to be vital this week. And that's going to be a key in being able to keep pace, because this is not a big-time scoring event, but you cannot make bogeys if you want to win this event. Now, also, the one thing that this course does have in common with some other Florida golf courses is that the greens are a Poa Trivialis overseed this week. There is not a whole lot of individual character and break on these greens. They're quite flat. They're quite easy to read. And with it being the POA overseed, they're going to roll true. So the greens themselves are not that difficult, but getting to the green is the difficult task here at the Copperhead Course. I will add one thing. You can play this golf course on any of the PGA Tour 2K video games. I think it is a quite unique course to play because you can like feel the decision matrix off the tee of, hey, do I want to, go with the driver on this one, or do I want to club down where I have a little bit of a wider gap? And then the greens themselves, it stands out how small they are when you play it on that game. Now, obviously, it is a video game. It's not real life, but, I've got some resources. I play some video games. I went on there and played it last night, and that was just kind of the vibes and the takeaway from it. And the other thing that does stand out on there is the elevation changes. This is not just your flat Florida golf course. Much of the property is on a hill, so a lot of the holes will play uphill, a lot of the holes will play downhill, and being able to navigate that elevation change is going to be key. Now, in terms of comp courses this week, I have 3 of them that I do think are really, really good comps, and then some more that are kind of like ancillary comps. I think the best comps are East Lake and Colonial. These are both golf courses with a bunch of long par threes. That's something that they have, but they're also like courses where the distance on the scorecard doesn't tell the true story of how long they are. Like, you're going to have some club down holes, you're going to have some long irons into greens, and you're going to have a low green and regulation percentage. And so those 2 courses I do think fit the bill pretty well. Colonial, you've seen Sam Burns win at both Copperhead Course and at Colonial. You've seen Jordan Spieth win at both. So I think those are both good comps. And then the Country Club at Jackson is another one. The Sam Burns has won at, and Sam Burns has won this event twice. And then the kind of the ancillary comps, some courses that you can look at some crossover success. There is TPC San Antonio, Riviera, I think applies. And then I do think that TPC Southwind applies a little bit as well. But I'm not as heavy on those ancillary comps as I am like the main ones. And course history here is something that is a little bit of a thing, but it can be a little bit volatile because of how many high leverage shots this course does create. It can create a little bit of volatility. And then the last thing, you will see this pop up this week, the last 3 holes, 16, 17, and 18. Do not count your money before your golfers finish this week, because 16, 17, 18, it is known as the Snake Pit. It's one of these named hole stretches. We had the Bear Trap. We've now got the Snake Pit. There's the Horrible Horseshoe at Colonial. So that's a stretch of holes that's quite difficult. It's not easy at all. Getting out of there with par is an accomplishment. And if you are going to be playing some player props on Underdog this week, you're going to see some props come up with the Snake Pit. It is not easy. It's not an easy stretch. 4 is this long winding par 4 around a lake, where the lake is pretty much in play on your first shot and second shot. 17 is a supremely long par 3, and then 18 is an uphill par 4 with bunkers all over the place. Now, in terms of guys who have played well here, Cameron Young played this event for the first time last year and finished second. He was a guy that he was very much able to club down off the tee and be comfortable because of his distance. He was able to really club down and hit 3-wood and hit, lesser clubs into greens, whereas others were not. Sahith Theegala played this one time and has a 7th place finish. I don't know if he is teeing it up this week or not, but he's a guy that fits the category of really good short game. And so is able to play well here. Sam Burns, winner twice here, 6th place finish the year after that, and missed the cut here last year. Tommy Fleetwood has played here twice, T16 and T3. Xander Schauffele played twice, top 12 both times. Jordan Spieth has won this event before. He was most recently missing the cut here last year in T3 in 2023. Trying to find anybody else who's played this event. Mateo Montecero has played this event twice and finished it well. Alex Noren has played twice and finished it well. Alex Noren will not be in action this week, though. That was I should not have included him in that. Taylor Moore was 12th in his title defense defense last year as well. So there are numerous guys who do play well here, but it's not like automatic. Like if you have good history, you're going to continue to play well here. All right, so my key stats for this week. Here's what we got. Strokes gain off the tee, strokes gain on approach. They're going to be important every week, but this week I am very much looking at scrambling, strokes gain around the green, and strokes gain short game. Every winner here has been able to scramble because every winner here is still going to miss greens. So I do think that is something you're really going to want to look at this week. It's going to be something that is super vital. And then a stat that I love, not all databases have it, but greens in regulation gained, I think is a good stat this week. If you're just able to hit the green more often than your peers, it's going to bode well for you here this week. All right, now let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then we're going to dive down the rabbit hole. Now, if you've been with us here for a while, you know that when I mention the rabbit hole, I'm talking about the rabbit hole, which is a tool from BetSperts Golf. It is what I use for all my golf data and is cool. I use to make all my custom models. You can use all different kinds of filters and conditions on here to really isolate the micro skills that you want in your golfers. I think it's great. I highly recommend it if you're looking for a golf data site. This is the place I would go. All right, now, here's what we loaded up into the model this week. Just basic strokes gained off the tee for the calendar year 2025. Who is hitting their clubs off the tee well? Doesn't matter what club it is. Doesn't matter the distance, the accuracy, whatever. Are you putting yourself in a good spot one way or another? Best in the field: Keith Mitchell, Stephen Fisk, Rico Hoey, Kurt Kitayama, and Alex Smalley. Switch on over to approach. And the top golfers in the field in that category, if it will work for me here: Jackson Super, Doug Gim, Seb Straka, Nikolai Højgaard, and Justin Thomas are your top five. Some heavy hitters outside the top five as well: Tommy Fleetwood, Henrik Nordlander, Joel Damon, Shane Lowry, and Andrew Putnam. I also wanted to look at strokes gained in the short game categories this week. This is both putting and around the green combined. Basically, what this really does measure is your ability to scramble or your ability to make birdies. Best in this category: Christian Bezuidenhout, Harry Hall, Brian Campbell, Alex Smalley, and Jacob Bridgman. When you just isolate that to being around the green play, the best in that regard have been Peter Malnati, Brian Campbell, Alex Smalley, Michael Kim, and Taylor Moore. Notice two of that top five have won this event before. So I do think that's important. Now, what I also want to look at was strokes gained off the tee in difficult driving conditions. So when the fairway is difficult to hit and when there is a penalty for missing the fairway, who are the best drivers of the golf ball? You've got Cameron Young, Victor Hovland, Vincent Norman, Byung-Hun An, and Xander Schauffele as the top five. Also wanted to look at strokes gained approach on courses with small greens because these greens are quite small. Best in the field: Justin Thomas, Xander Schauffele, Kevin Yu, Joel Damon, and Victor Hovland. Extrapolate out that a little bit to just be long golf courses, because I do think that that's one way you can isolate long iron skills is by looking at approach on long golf courses. Best in the field: Gary Woodland, Andrew Putnam, Jonathan Vegas, Victor Hovland, and Xander Schauffele. Now, when you look at what I did for this one was I did strokes gained total, but I did it on all courses where the greens are difficult to hit. So what this does is it measures like one of the most important traits of the Copperhead course, which is there's going to be a low green regulation percentage. How do you fare well in those events, no matter what the rest of the conditions are? So we'll go top 10 for this one. Top 10 in this field: Xander Schauffele, Victor Hovland, Shane Lowry, Adam Scott, Tommy Fleetwood, Corey Connors, Akshay Bhatia, Andrew Novak, Vic Perez, and Will Zalatoris. Now, I also wanted to look at strokes gained around the green in difficult conditions. Basically, when scoring is not so good, how can you get up and down? Harry Hall, Joseph Bramlett, Bo Hostler, Andrew Putnam, and Matteo Monacero top in that category. Then I wanted to look at strokes gained putting on the overseeded greens with the Poa Trivialis overseed. Best in the field in that regard: Thomas Dietrich, Sam Ryder, Sahith Theegala, Adam Scott, Christian Bezuidenhout is your top five. Outside the top five, you got some big names: Xander Schauffele, Jordan Spieth, Jake Knapp, Will Chandler, and Matt Kuchar. Then I wanted to look at just Copperhead course. Who are the best players in the field at this course? Now, not everybody's played it yet, but among those who have, you have Burns, Fleetwood, Spieth, Schauffele, Young, Thomas, Hovland, Davis Riley, Chandler Phillips, and Taylor Moore as your top 10. Quite a heavy hitter list at the top there of guys I would expect to be at the top of the betting board and the DraftKings board. Then when you look at all of the comp courses, and I included the ancillary comps, who are the best at those courses? You've got Xander, Victor, Tommy, Justin, Christian Bezuidenhout, Kuchar, Glover, Straka, Hadwin, and Akshay Bhatia, and Sam Stevens, all tied for 9th there. Now, throw all that into a model, and here is the most interesting result that you're going to be looking for. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, ignore the salary. That is for this week, the Players' Championship on DraftKings. because the salaries for Valspar aren't loaded in yet. Number one in my model ended up being Tommy Fleetwood. Now, I have been fairly anti-Fleetwood for a long time, and it's nothing against him. My joke is always that, well, I prefer to play golfers who win, but that's like really hard to do. What I like about Tommy is that his approach play has just been sublime recently. It's been so good that it got me on him for the Players Championship, and I'm going to continue to be on him here. I just think a guy who continues to strike the ball this well is due to win. And I think that this is a course that really fits his game so well. Tommy is really good in difficult conditions. He's really good at long golf courses. He has all of the shots off the tee. He can move it both ways with the driver. He can club down. He can hit the fairways. He does what he needs to do off the tee. And then on approach, he's good at all lengths. So I really do think that this is a really good spot for Tommy. And he's always a good short game player. He hasn't been in 2025, but over the course of his career, he has been. I really have faith in Tommy. He's going to be a guy who's probably going to be a core play for me in DFS this week. Might be betting him to win, even though he's statistically the worst outright bet in the history of golf because he has never won on the PGA Tour. So why would this not be the week, right? This is, to me, a good week for him. It's a great course fit. It's asking a different question of him than to win a major or a signature event, which is mostly what he plays. This is still a pretty good field, as you can see by the list of names in it, but it's definitely a lower bar for him to clear than what it would be for a major or a signature event. Xander Schauffele is number 2. Look, he's kind of imploded over the weekend at TPC Sawgrass, but I kind of think Xander's in this spot where you can either be early or be late on Xander right now. He is recovering from this injury. There's going to be a point where he does just flip the switch and he's back to being last year's Xander, which, by the way, ties in perfectly to this Tommy Fleetwood discussion, right? Because everybody in golf is a, quote unquote, gutless loser, choker, whatever, until they win. Right? Xander was the biggest choker in golf until he won 2 majors. Thomas Dietrich was one of the biggest chokers in golf till he won TPC Scottsdale. It's time for Tommy Fleetwood. I think that, tying Xander and Tommy together right there, I think that's a good timing for him to make that point. And I think it's time for Tommy Fleetwood to erase that reputation. Third is Shane Lowry in my model. I really like Shane this week. I really liked him at the Players Championship. He was a core play for me at the Players Championship in DFS. He was an outright bet for me to win. Obviously, that's not getting home, but he has just a great profile for this event. He is generally a really good driver of the golf ball. It hasn't been perfect recently, but his approach play has made up for it. And we know Shane is a great around the green player. He can beat hot or cold with the putter, but this is a place that is going to kind of devalue that putter with it being the POA overseed. So, and he does putt well on the POA overseed. In fact, he ranks, hold on, I got to find it again. Oh, no, never mind. He does not putt well on the POA overseed. Never mind. He must putt well on a different surface that I was thinking about. Yeah, scratch that. He does not putt well on the POA overseed. But anyway, I do think this is a great spot for Shane. Third in my model, not a surprise. Justin Thomas is 4th. He's another guy that his approach play is just everything trending in the right direction, trending towards a win. We saw him go absolutely nuclear at the Players Championship. There's a chance he could do that again if he could just string together 4 good rounds. He absolutely has the upside to win this event. If I had to guess right now from a DraftKings perspective, what's going to happen? I think Xander is going to be the highest priced player. I think JT will be 2nd. I think that Tommy will probably be 3rd, and Tommy will probably be the guy that I will play the most out of them for that reason. Now, Adam Scott came in 5th. I think this is an interesting one. I was surprised to see him here, but you think about this type of course, you think about what Adam Scott does, this kind of fits the bill for Adam Scott. He's at his best at difficult courses. At least that's my perception of it. He's at his best at, major type environments. And, it hasn't been great recently for him, but I think that this is a pretty good spot for Adam Scott. I really do. And last year, he kind of had a lot of things going right for him and just never put it together for a win. I think that this year could be the tides that turn for Adam Scott. I don't mind him at 5. Akshay Bhatia at 6. I'm afraid he's going to be very popular once, the Players concludes because he is going to get a top 5 in that event, I believe. Look, I'm just a believer in talent and Akshay long-term. I'm going to play Akshay in DFS. I'm going to be betting Akshay a lot of weeks. I'm just a believer in the kid's talent. I think he's got a lot of game. I think he's got all the shots in his bag. The one thing that worries me about Akshay, he is a particularly poor around the green player. He's particularly poor at scrambling. If he's able to keep everything on script this week, which is really difficult to do with this golf course, he could absolutely run away with it, but he's going to have to bring his A game. And for the most part, the players for the 4 rounds, he had his A game. So I don't mind Akshay this week. Corey Connors, 7, Andrew Novak, 8. That's an interesting one for me, but he's really been good with the short game recently. He might be a value play in DFS I could look into. Jordan Spieth, 9. That's a guy I'm really going to get to in DFS this week. I think that Spieth is kind of on the trend line of being back, and so I'm certainly going to get to him this week in DFS. Michael Kim is 10. So Michael Kim was the biggest chalk of the week in DFS at the Players Championship. Missed the cut quite badly, if I might add. Nobody's going to play in this week because of that. And he's probably going to get ratcheted up in price in DraftKings because of that. But I think in DFS, that makes him a really high leverage play for a guy who is currently playing the best golf of his career. Sepp Straka, 11. It's another guy that I really like for this event. Now, much like Akshay, he's a particularly poor around the green player, but he is so dialed in off the tee and on approach right now that weakness of his game might be able to get masked a little bit here at this course. He's not going to hit every green, but if he can hit more greens than everybody else, that's his pathway to winning, and I do think he could do that. Matt Kuchar, 12, Victor Hovland, 13, Lucas Glover, 14, Sam Stevens, 15. Let's see if there's anybody that's going to be like a value play in DFS that I could point out for this model. Doug Gim coming in at 20. That's just because he's such an approach demon. He's another guy who missed the cut as chalk at the Players Championship. I don't mind going back to him because his around the green play isn't poor. It's his putter that's poor, and this is a course that's going to devalue that. Christian Bezuidenhout is just a great short game player. I kind of like him at this type of course where it is going to be difficult. I think he's worth a look in DFS this week quite well. And then 2 more that I'm going to mention. Andrew Putnam I really like in DFS this week. He burned me. He was a core play at the Players, missed the cut, but I'm willing to go back to him. And then Jacob Bridgman just has the short game. And his approach play and off the tee play have not been nearly as bad as you would think because he's played quite well in recent events. He was 15th at Arnold Palmer, T2 at the Cognizant. I really do think he's in a pretty good spot. I think he's probably going to be a pretty solid value play here this week. Sam Ryder, I think, is another guy worth looking at. I believe he almost won this event 2 years ago. Don't quote me on that, but I think he's worth a look. I also really like Ben Silverman at this type of course where the short game is going to be accentuated because that is the strength of his game. So he might be a guy worth looking at as well. And then Adam Schenk almost won this event a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So he might be another guy worth looking at. But that's pretty much all we got right now. Without it being a full DraftKings board, it is kind of hard to discern who is going to actually be a value play this week. So we will close it out. We're going to go ahead and talk one and done. So for one and done this week, obviously we don't have the biggest names in all golf. This is not a signature event. And so you really got your choices cut out for you. Like, I think you can use a lot of the guys near the top of this board with confidence. Like, I really think Tommy Fleetwood is going to be a heavy one and done selection for me this week because of the fact that I think this course sets up perfectly for him, and I can't imagine using him at another site for one and done. My preliminary selection back in December was Cameron Young, but that's before I knew how poorly he was going to come out of the gates playing this season and before I knew how good this field was going to be. So I don't think Cameron Young is going to be my pick this week. I don't even know if he's in the field. He's not going to be my pick this week. I really think I'm going to stick with Tommy because, like I said, I don't see another scenario where I'm going to want to use him. And then I also think that Justin Thomas is not a bad selection. You might want to save JT for an elevated event. I think it's a pretty good shot at Spieth as well. You can use Spieth at the 2 Texas events, though. He's likely to play in the Colonial and in TBC San Antonio. Those are 2 courses that he's played really well at in his career. So I don't mind Spieth at those 2 events. But if you're not planning on using Spieth there, I do think using Spieth here is worth a look as well. But all right, y'all, that's going to do it here for this episode for the Valspar Championship. A little bit shorter this week than usual because, like I said, we don't have the values that we can dive into. We don't have the odds that we can dive into. But, hopefully we gave you guys a pretty good picture of what Copperhead is going to be playing like this week. Like I said, I really like this golf course, and I think it really does present well on TV. To me, it's the perfect viewing on like a Saturday and Sunday before the NCAA tournament games start, like to have it on in the morning. it's kind of what I like to do. And, once the NCAA tournament games do start, it's a great second screen viewing because it is going to show well on screen, and there are going to be wild swings because of how many bogeys there are going to be at this event. But all right, y'all, that's going to do it here for us here this week. Hopefully we gave you guys all the information you needed in order to pick some winners here at the Copperhead Course this week. Best of luck to you guys. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point, and I will see you guys next time.